Are you still a virgin? The question hung in the air like a blade waiting to drop. Ariella looked up from her wineglass to find Luca Bernini leaning against the marble pillar, that trademark smirk playing on his lips. The private gathering buzzed around them with low conversation and clinking crystal, but his voice had cut through it all with deliberate precision. "I'm sorry. What?" She blinked at the capo, certain she'd misheard. "You heard me." Luca's grin widened, eyes dancing with mischief. "Are you still a virgin, Ariella Monroe?" Heat flooded her cheeks. 3 weeks in Bari, 3 weeks working as a translator for what she'd believed was a legitimate import-export company. And somehow, she'd ended up at an exclusive gathering surrounded by Italy's most dangerous men, being asked the most invasive question of her life. She should have been mortified, should have walked away. But something in Luca's playful tone, combined with the wine warming her blood, made her reckless. Losing it today, actually. The words came out bold, careless, accompanied by a smile that matched his energy. Luca's eyebrows shot up, delighted. Several nearby conversations stuttered to a halt, and then the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ariella felt him before she saw him. Dante Vitale materialized beside her, like a storm rolling in from the coast, all controlled fury, wrapped in an expensive black suit. His hand settled on the back of her chair, grip tight enough that she heard the wood creak. "With who?" His voice was quiet, deadly, nothing like the carefully modulated tone he'd used with her during late-night translation sessions. The entire room had gone silent now. Ariella's heart hammered against her ribs as she looked up at her boss, her enigmatic employer who barely spoke to her beyond necessary instructions, who watched her with dark eyes she could never quite read. Except she could read them now. The fury there was unmistakable, raw and visceral, and completely irrational, given that he'd never indicated any personal interest in her whatsoever. "I was joking," she managed, voice smaller than she'd like. "Luca asked a ridiculous question, and I gave a ridiculous answer." It wasn't ridiculous. Luca's amusement had evaporated. It was inappropriate. "My apologies, Ariella." But Dante wasn't looking at Luca. His focus remained locked on her, jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscle jumping. "You thought that was funny? Announcing something like that in a room full of men who would take it as an invitation? I didn't think anyone would actually care about a joke." She stood, refusing to crane her neck to meet his eyes. Even in heels, he towered over her 5'4" frame. "And I certainly didn't expect you to care." Something flickered across his expression. "You don't know what I care about. Because you never tell me anything. You barely speak to me unless it's about work." The words tumbled out, fueled by wine and confusion, and 3 weeks of walking on eggshells around a man who made her pulse race whenever he entered a room. "So forgive me if I didn't realize my hypothetical virginity was suddenly your concern." His hand moved from the chair to her elbow, gentle despite the tension radiating through him. "We need to talk, privately." "Dante." An older man approached, silver-haired and commanding. "Introduce me to your guest." Dante's grip on her elbow tightened fractionally before he released her, shifting into a posture of deference Ariella had never seen from him. "Don Romani, this is Ariella Monroe, the translator I mentioned. She's been assisting with the international contracts." The Don's eyes were sharp as they assessed her. Marco Monroe's daughter. It wasn't a question, and the familiar use of her father's name sent ice through her veins. "You knew my father?" "I did. He was a good man, brilliant with numbers. He worked for our family before you were born." The Don's expression softened slightly. "I was sorry to hear of his passing. He spoke of you often in those final months, wanted to ensure you'd be protected if you ever came to Italy." The world tilted. Ariella gripped the edge of a nearby table, trying to process this information. Her father had been an accountant, quiet and careful, who'd raised her alone after her mother died. He'd never mentioned Italy, never hinted at any connection to families like this. Protected from what? The question came out steadier than she felt. Old debts, old enemies, the kind of shadows that follow men who leave this life. Don Romani glanced at Dante. Which is why I tasked my most trusted underboss with watching over you, ensuring your internship was legitimate, your housing secure, your safety guaranteed. Underboss. The word hit like a physical blow. Not just her employer, not just the stern man who reviewed her translations with meticulous attention. Second in command of an actual Mafia family. I need air. Ariella moved toward the terrace doors without waiting for permission. The cool evening breeze off the Adriatic helped clear some of the fog from her mind. She gripped the stone railing, staring out at Bari's lights reflecting on dark water. Behind her, she heard the terrace doors open and close. You're angry. Dante's voice came from several feet away, giving her space. I'm confused. There's a difference. She didn't turn around. Was any of it real? The internship, the apartment near the university, the work you gave me? All of it was real. Your skills are genuine. Your translation's excellent. I didn't fabricate your qualifications. He moved closer, and she felt the heat of him at her back. But yes, I arranged the opportunity. Your father asked me to watch over you if you came to Italy. I owed him that much. Why? She turned to face him finally. What did my father do for you that created this debt? Dante was silent for a long moment, moonlight casting shadows across his angular features. He looked older than his 34 years right now, weighted by things she couldn't begin to understand. He saved my life. I was 23, reckless, thought I was invincible, made enemies I wasn't equipped to handle. His jaw tightened with the memory. Your father discovered they'd been skimming money from family accounts, building resources to move against me. He brought me proof, helped me expose them before they could strike. Several men died because of that information. And my father left immediately after. Told Don Romani he was done with this world, that he had a daughter who deserved better than growing up in shadows. Dante's eyes met hers. The Don let him go with full honors, set him up in America with a clean slate. Your father never looked back. Until he was dying. The pieces were falling into place now. He contacted you then. Sent a letter 3 months before he passed. Said you'd been accepted to a study program in Italy. Asked if I could ensure you stayed safe during your time here. Dante's expression softened. I promised I would. I've kept that promise. By lying to me for 3 weeks. By protecting you from information that could put you in danger. The less you knew about your father's past, the safer you were. He took another step closer. That changed tonight. Because of what I said to Luca, understanding dawned. People will think we're involved now, that I'm under your protection in a different way. They already thought that. Your joke just confirmed it. Frustration bled through his controlled exterior. Do you understand what you did in there? In this world, perception is everything. You just told a room full of dangerous men that you're available, that you're willing, that any of them could be the one to— I was joking, she interrupted. I didn't know the rules of whatever game you're all playing. It's not a game. It's survival. He was close enough now that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. And you just made yourself a target. Then tell me the rules. Stop treating me like I'm too fragile to handle the truth. She lifted her chin, meeting his intensity with her own. I'm not a child, Dante. Stop protecting me from reality. I'm protecting you from my reality, which is violence and bloodshed and moral compromises you can't imagine. His hand came up to grip the railing beside her head, caging her against the stone. You're 20 years old, brilliant, with your whole life ahead of you. You should be in classrooms and libraries, not tangled up in Mafia politics. Maybe I don't want safe and predictable. Her heart raced at his proximity. Maybe I'm tired of everyone deciding what's best for me. You don't know what you're saying, don't I? She searched his face, seeing the war raging behind his dark eyes. You've been watching me for weeks. I've felt it every time you're in a room. The way you track my movements. How you position yourself between me and everyone else. That's not just obligation to my father. His other hand came up to frame her face, touch achingly gentle despite the tension vibrating through him. No, it's not. Then what is it? A problem I don't know how to solve. His thumb traced her cheekbone. You ask too many questions. You're fearless when you should be cautious. You walk into my office like you belong there. Challenge my decisions. Make me actually consider perspectives I've dismissed for years. That's bad? It's dangerous. You make me think about things beyond duty and power. You make me want things I have no right to want. His forehead dropped to rest against hers. And when Luca asked that question, when you answered like it meant nothing, I wanted to destroy everyone in that room for even hearing you say it. Her breath caught. Dante, I know it's wrong. I know I'm too old, too damaged, too deep in this world to offer you anything good. His voice roughened. But I can't stop wanting you anyway. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Ariella's mind screamed that this was complicated and dangerous, and probably a terrible idea. But her heart, her traitorous heart, had already made its choice weeks ago during late nights, reviewing contracts, stolen glances across conference tables, moments when his rare smile transformed his entire face. What if I want you to? The whisper felt like jumping off a cliff, his control shattered. The kiss was nothing like she'd imagined during restless nights alone. It was careful and almost reverent, like he was terrified of breaking her. His hands cradled her face with a gentleness that contradicted everything she knew about his capacity for violence. Ariella melted into him, fingers gripping his suit jacket for balance as the world spun. He tasted like whiskey and winter, and when his tongue swept against her lower lip, requesting permission, she granted it without hesitation. The kiss deepened, still controlled but edged with desperation. Dante's hand slid into her hair, angling her head to better access. A small sound escaped her throat, and she felt him tremble against her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he didn't pull away. His hand stayed gentle on her face, thumbs stroking her cheekbones, as he studied her with an intensity that made her feel seen in a way she'd never experienced. This changes everything, he said quietly. I know. There will be consequences, questions, dangers I can't fully protect you from. I'm not asking you to protect me from everything. Just don't lie to me anymore. She covered his hands with hers. Tell me the truth. Teach me the rules. Let me make informed choices. Even if those choices lead somewhere dark? Even then. He kissed her again, softer this time, like sealing a promise. When he pulled back, some of the tension had left his shoulders. We should go back inside. Disappearing together will only fuel speculation. Let them speculate. But she stepped away from the railing, smoothing her dress with shaking hands. Dante caught her wrist gently. Ariella, what you said to Luca about losing your virginity, was any of that true? Heat flooded her face again. Does it matter? To me? Yes. His thumb traced circles on her pulse point. Because if it's true, if you're planning to be with someone, I need to know. Need to make sure they're worthy of you, that they'll treat you with the respect you deserve. And if I said I was planning to be with you? The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither of them could take back. Dante's eyes darkened, and she watched him wrestle with control. Then I'd tell you we're doing this right. No rushed decisions, no taking advantage of confusion and fear. He released her wrist, though the loss of contact felt like a physical ache. You deserve better than a decision made in the aftermath of revelations and danger. What if I know what I want? You think you do, but tomorrow, in daylight, when you've had time to process everything you learned tonight, you might feel differently. He straightened his suit jacket, rebuilding the walls she'd briefly seen crumble. I can wait. I've been waiting 3 weeks already. A little longer won't kill me. The consideration in his words made her chest tight. This man, this dangerous underboss who commanded fear and respect, was treating her choice like something sacred. They returned to the gathering together, and the room's energy shifted the moment they appeared. Conversations paused and resumed, but Ariella felt the weight of dozens of eyes tracking their movement. Luca approached immediately, expression serious. I apologize again for my earlier comment. It was inappropriate and disrespectful. It's fine, Ariella said, though it clearly wasn't. It's not. Dante's voice carried an edge. But it's addressed. Make sure the others understand she's under family protection now. Full protection. The emphasis on those last words seemed to mean something Ariella didn't fully grasp. But Luca nodded sharply. Of course, I'll spread the word. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Dante stayed close, but not possessively so, introducing her to various family members with careful explanations of her role and her father's history. She met his touch with calculated distance, aware they were performing for an audience. But sometimes their eyes would meet across the room, and the heat in his gaze made her forget about pretense entirely. It was nearly midnight when Dante finally guided her toward the exit. I'm taking you home. My driver will ensure you arrive safely. You're not coming? I have business to attend to here, things that don't concern you. He walked her to the waiting car, opening the door himself. Lock your doors tonight. Don't answer for anyone except my driver tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning? You're not. Going back to your apartment. It's not secure anymore. He said it like this was obvious. I've arranged a safer location. We'll discuss details tomorrow. Before she could protest, he leaned in close, lips brushing her ear. Sleep well, Ariella. Dream of better men than me. Then he was gone, striding back toward the villa, while she sat, stunned in the back of a luxury car. The driver navigated Bari's streets with practiced ease. Ariella watched the city lights blur past, trying to organize her thoughts into something coherent. Her father had worked for the Mafia. She'd been under surveillance for 3 weeks. Her boss was an underboss who just kissed her like she was oxygen, and he was suffocating. Normal had officially left the building. Her apartment felt smaller than usual when she finally arrived. The driver walked her to her door, waiting until she locked it before leaving. Through the window, she watched him park across the street, clearly settling in for a long night of surveillance. Ariella's roommate, Jessica, was already asleep. She moved quietly through the small space, changing into pajamas and washing her face, while her mind replayed every moment of the evening. Sleep seemed impossible, but exhaustion won eventually. She drifted off thinking about Dante's hands on her face, the way he'd trembled like she had the power to undo him completely. Morning came too soon. Ariella woke to her phone buzzing insistently. Unknown number. Hello? Good morning. Dante's voice was all business, no trace of last night's vulnerability. My driver will collect you in 1 hour. Pack enough for a week. A week? Dante, I have classes, commitments, which I've handled. Your professors have been informed you're dealing with a family emergency. Your absence is excused. He continued before she could protest. This isn't negotiable, Ariella. Last night made you visible to people who don't share my interest in keeping you safe. So I'm just supposed to disappear? Let you control my entire life? For now, yes, until I neutralize the threat. His tone softened slightly. I know you value your independence. I respect that. But please trust me on this. She wanted to argue, to assert her autonomy, and refuse to be managed. But the memory of his hands shaking as he held her, the genuine fear in his voice when he'd asked about her joke, made her pause. 1 week, she finally agreed. And you tell me everything. No more protecting me from information. Agreed. 1 hour, Ariella. He ended the call before she could respond. Jessica emerged from her room, bleary-eyed and confused. Was that your boss? Why are you packing? Family emergency, Ariella lied, hating how easily the deception came. I'll be gone about a week. Can you handle rent if I Venmo you my half? Of course, but are you okay? You seem shaken. I'm fine, just unexpected news. She threw clothes into a suitcase with no real organization. I'll call you when I can. The driver arrived exactly 1 hour later. He collected her suitcase without comment, opening the rear door of the same black car from last night. They drove through Bari's morning traffic, heading away from the university district toward the coast. They pulled up to a modern apartment building with private security and ocean views. The driver escorted her to a penthouse elevator that required both keycard and fingerprint access. Whose fingerprint? Ariella asked. Yours now. He handed her a keycard. Mr. Vitale arranged everything this morning. The elevator opened directly into a sprawling penthouse that made her student apartment look like a closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the Adriatic stretching to the horizon, and the morning sun painted everything gold. This is excessive, she breathed. This is secure. Dante's voice came from behind her. She spun to find him emerging from what looked like a home office, dressed more casually than she'd ever seen him. Dark jeans, black button-down with sleeves rolled to reveal forearms that made her mouth go dry. He looked younger like this, less like an underboss, and more like a man who might have been hers in a different life. How did you get here before me? She asked. I never left. Had the driver take you on a longer route while I ensured everything was ready. He gestured around the space. The guest room is yours. I've stocked the kitchen with basics, but we can arrange for whatever you prefer. My room is on the other side of the apartment if you need anything. We're living together? The reality hit her suddenly. For the next week, yes. It's the only way I can guarantee your safety without assigning you a full security detail. He moved to the kitchen, pulling out coffee supplies. I know it's not ideal. It's terrifying. She joined him at the counter, accepting the cup he poured. 3 weeks ago, I was a linguistics student with normal problems. Now I'm hiding in a penthouse with a Mafia underboss who kissed me last night, and I can't stop thinking about it. The confession made him pause mid-motion. Ariella, you said no more lies. That includes lies I tell myself about what I want. She set down her coffee, meeting his eyes directly. I've been attracted to you since day one. Tried to convince myself it was just intimidation or cultural fascination or anything except what it actually was. Then last night happened, and now I can't pretend anymore. He set his own cup down carefully, like he didn't trust his hands. This isn't simple attraction. You understand that. I understand it's complicated and dangerous, and probably a terrible idea. She moved around the counter, closing the distance between them. I also understand that I've never felt this way about anyone, and walking away without exploring it would haunt me forever. I'm not a good man. The things I do, the choices I make, they're not redeemable by caring about one person. His voice was rough. Being with me means accepting darkness you can't unsee. Then show me. Stop protecting me from reality and let me make an informed choice. The war in his expression was visible, duty and desire battling for dominance. Finally, he reached for her, hands gentle as always despite the intensity burning in his eyes. You want truth? Here it is. He pulled her close, eliminating the space between them. I've killed men, not in self-defense or heat of moment, but calculated decisions to protect family interests. I've ordered violence, sanctioned torture, made choices that keep me awake some nights, wondering if I'm beyond redemption. And yet my father trusted you with me. Your father knew I'd protect you with my life. That's different from being worthy of you. She reached up to cup his face, feeling the rough stubble against her palm. What if I decide you are? Then I'd spend every day trying to deserve that faith. He turned his head to press a kiss to her palm. But I need you to be certain, Ariella. Once we cross this line, once you're truly mine, there's no going back to normal. This world doesn't release people easily. I don't want normal. I want real. She rose on her toes, bringing their mouths close enough to share breath. I want you. He held himself still for a heartbeat longer, giving her one last chance to retreat. Then his control shattered completely. This kiss was nothing like last night's careful exploration. It was hungry and desperate, weeks of suppressed want finally unleashed. His hand slid into her hair, angling her head for better access, while she gripped his shirt hard enough to wrinkle the expensive fabric. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. You're sure about this? About us? I've never been more sure of anything. Then we do this right. I court you properly, show you what being mine actually means, give you time to adjust before we... He seemed to struggle with the words. Before we what? She was enjoying watching him flustered. Before I make you mine in every sense. Heat flooded his gaze. I want you, desperately. But I want you certain and willing and fully aware of what you're choosing. The consideration in his words made her fall a little harder. How long are we talking? As long as it takes for you to understand this world and still want to stay in it. He kissed her softly. I can be patient when it matters. And if I don't want you to be patient? A low sound escaped him, half laugh, half groan. Then you're testing my control in ways that might break me. Someone cleared their throat from the elevator. They sprang apart to find Luca stepping out, expression carefully neutral. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a situation. Dante's demeanor shifted instantly, tenderness replaced by cold calculation. What kind of situation? The Calabresi family. They're asking questions about the American girl, making noise about old debts and new leverage. Luca's eyes flicked to Ariella. They know who she is and what she means. How much do they know? Enough to be dangerous, not enough to make direct moves yet. Luca handed over a tablet. But they're reaching out to contacts, building intelligence. Dante studied whatever was displayed, jaw tightening with each passing second. Double security on this location. No one gets within 100 yards without clearance. And arrange a meeting with their underboss. If they want to discuss terms, we do it properly. You're sure that's wise? Meeting with them gives credibility to their claims. Not meeting gives them freedom to escalate. He handed back the tablet. Set it up for tomorrow night. Neutral location. Full security presence. Luca nodded and retreated to the office, leaving them alone again. The easy intimacy from moments before had vanished, replaced by the harsh reality of the world Dante inhabited. This is what I meant, he said quietly. My life, my choices, they create ripples that affect everyone close to me. Then teach me how to navigate them. Ariella moved to his side. You promised truth and information. Start now. He studied her for a long moment, then made a decision. Come with me. He led her to the office where Luca had set up multiple monitors and files. This is the Calabrese family. He pulled up photos and documents. They run most of the drug trafficking through southern Italy. We have an uneasy truce because they stay out of our territories, and we stay out of theirs. What changed? You. Or rather, your connection to your father. He opened another file. Before Marco Monroe left for America, he helped expose corruption in Calabrese operations as well. Several of their key people went to prison because of information he provided. They've always suspected, but never had proof. Until I showed up in Italy. Exactly. Your presence here, working for my family, confirms their suspicions. They're viewing you as either leverage against me or revenge against your father's memory. The weight of that settled over her. So what do? We make it clear that you're under family protection, and any move against you is a move against the entire Romani syndicate. He pulled her close. They won't risk open war over old grudges, but we need to establish boundaries before someone makes a stupid decision. Is that what tomorrow's meeting is about? Yes. I'll make it clear that you're not just under my protection as a debt to your father. You're mine, personally, which means an attack on you is an attack on me specifically. Heat flooded through her at the possessive declaration. And if they don't accept those terms, then we deal with the consequences. His expression darkened. But they will. No one wants the kind of war that would start. Luca emerged from deeper in the office. Meeting is set. Tomorrow at 8. The Paradiso restaurant. They agreed to our security terms. Good. Prepare the usual team. Dante's hand settled at the small of Ariella's back. She comes with me. Both she and Luca spoke at once. What? If this is about establishing her status, she needs to be present. Hiding her makes her seem like a weakness instead of a strength. His tone left no room for argument. Besides, I want them to see exactly what they'd be challenging. Luca didn't look happy, but nodded. I'll arrange appropriate security. After he left, Ariella turned to Dante. You're using me as a statement. I'm showing them the truth, that you're important enough for me to break protocols, to bring you into family business, to publicly claim in a way I've never done with anyone. He cupped her face gently. If that makes me possessive and territorial, I won't apologize for it. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm asking you to keep me informed so I'm not walking into situations blind. Fair enough. He checked his watch. We have the rest of today and tomorrow before the meeting. I'll teach you what you need to know about Mafia etiquette, the power dynamics, how to read situations and protect yourself verbally. Crash course in organized crime. Something like that. His smile was small but genuine. Think of it as extreme cultural immersion. They spent the afternoon in the office, while Dante outlined the complex web of family allegiances, territories, and unwritten rules that governed his world. Ariella took notes, asked questions, tried to absorb information that felt overwhelming and fascinating in equal measure. The key thing to understand, Dante explained, is that everything is about perception and respect. Direct confrontation is rare because it forces public responses. Most conflicts get resolved through intermediaries and careful negotiations. So, tomorrow's meeting is essentially a negotiation about my status? Exactly. They'll probe for weaknesses, test our resolve, try to find leverage. We'll make it clear that none exists, and that pursuing this further would cost more than any potential gain. And if they don't believe you? His expression went cold. Then I make them believe, whatever it takes. The casual way he said it, the complete certainty that he would do whatever violence necessary to protect her, should have been frightening. Instead, it made her feel safer than she had in weeks. Evening arrived with the gradual dimming of light over the ocean. Dante ordered dinner from a restaurant Ariella didn't recognize, and they ate at the dining table while he told her stories about growing up in this world. I was 15 when I made my first collection, he said, refilling her wine, terrified, but determined to prove myself. The man we were collecting from was twice my size, clearly thought he could intimidate a kid. What happened? My uncle, who's now the Don, stepped in before it could escalate. Taught me that true power isn't about physical intimidation. It's about certainty. When you know without doubt that you'll follow through on every promise and threat. People feel that. Is that how you operate now? Mostly. I prefer negotiations to violence, but I never make threats I won't execute. He met her eyes across the table. Which is why the Calabrese family will take tomorrow seriously. They know my reputation. After dinner, they moved to the living room. Dante put on music, something Italian and old that filled the space with gentle melody. Ariella curled up on the couch, watching him move around the apartment with easy familiarity. "Tell me something real," she said suddenly. "Not about the Mafia or my father or any of this. Something about you, just Dante, that nobody else knows." He paused, considering. Finally, he sat beside her, close enough that their thighs touched. "I wanted to be a teacher once. Literature, specifically. Loved analyzing stories, understanding character motivations and narrative structure. What changed? Family obligation. My uncle needed someone he could trust absolutely, and I was groomed for this role from childhood." He stared at his hands. "By the time I realized I might want something different, I was already too deep, had made choices that closed other doors. Do you regret it? Some days. But regret is useless. I made my choices, and I live with the consequences." He turned to look at her. "Until 3 weeks ago, I thought I'd made peace with this being my entire life. Then you walked into my office asking questions about verb conjugations and something shifted." "What shifted?" "I started imagining alternatives. Started wondering what kind of man I might have been if I'd made different choices." His hand found hers, fingers interlacing. "Started wanting things I'd convinced myself I didn't need." "Like what?" "Like this. Sitting with someone who sees me as more than just an underboss. Someone who challenges me to think beyond duty and power." He lifted her hand to his lips. "Someone who makes me want to be better than I am." The vulnerability in his words made her chest ache. "You're already better than you think. You don't know all of me yet. So show me. Not just the dangerous parts, all of it." She shifted closer. "Show me the man who wanted to teach literature, who thinks about narrative structure, who kisses me like I'm precious." He pulled her into his lap in one smooth motion, hand settling on her waist. "You're making this very difficult." "What?" "Being patient, taking this slow." His forehead rested against hers. "All I want is to spend the next week showing you exactly how much I want you. But I'm trying to be responsible." "What if I don't want responsible?" "Then you're testing my control in dangerous ways." But he kissed her anyway, slow and deep and thorough. They stayed like that for a long time, kissing like teenagers, exploring this new dynamic between them. When Ariella finally pulled back, breathless and dizzy, Dante looked as undone as she felt. "We should stop," he said, though his hand stayed firm on her waist. "Probably." But neither of them moved. "Tomorrow will be complicated. You need rest. So do you." He laughed softly. "I haven't slept properly in 3 weeks. Not since you started consuming my thoughts." The admission made her bold. "Stay with me tonight? Just sleeping, nothing more. I just want to be close to you." The war in his expression was visible. Finally, he nodded. "Just sleeping. I don't trust myself with more right now." They moved to her assigned bedroom, the space large and comfortable with ocean views. Dante disappeared into his own room briefly, returning in sleep pants, and nothing else. Ariella tried very hard not to stare at his chest, at the scars that marked his skin with a history of violence. She failed completely. "Like what you see." His tone was teasing. "You're unfairly attractive, and you know it. You're one to talk." He slid into bed beside her, pulling her against his chest. "Sleep, Ariella. Tomorrow brings enough complications without us being exhausted." She settled into his warmth, feeling safer than logic said she should. "Dante, thank you for this, for trusting me with the truth. Thank you for not running when you learned it." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Now, sleep." She drifted off to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, dreaming of futures that might actually be possible. Morning arrived too soon, with sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. Ariella woke to find herself alone in bed, Dante's side already cool. Voices drifted from the main living area, low and intense. She pulled on a robe and emerged to find Dante and Luca in the middle of what looked like a serious discussion. Both men stopped talking when they saw her. "Morning," she said, suddenly self-conscious. "Good morning." Dante's expression softened slightly. "Coffee's ready. We have about 6 hours before we need to leave for the meeting." The reminder sent nervousness through her stomach. "What do I need to know? How should I act?" "Like yourself, but more reserved. Let me handle most of the conversation. If they address you directly, answer politely, but don't volunteer information." He handed her a cup of coffee. "And stay close to me at all times." "Is it really that dangerous?" Luca answered. "Probably not. But we don't take chances with your safety." They spent the morning reviewing scenarios, practicing responses, teaching Ariella the subtle art of Mafia diplomacy. By lunch, her head was spinning with information about hierarchy and respect and the 1,000 unspoken rules that governed these interactions. "You're overthinking it," Dante said, watching her pace the living room. "Just follow my lead, and you'll be fine." "Easy for you to say. You've been doing this your entire life." He caught her hand, pulling her to stop. "Ariella, look at me." When she met his eyes, he continued. "I won't let anything happen to you. That's not arrogance, it's fact. You are the most important thing in that room tomorrow, and I'll make sure everyone knows it." The certainty in his voice steadied her. "Okay, I trust you." "Good." He kissed her softly. "Now, let's take a break from all this. You're making yourself anxious." They spent the afternoon doing remarkably normal things. Dante cooked, revealing unexpected skill in the kitchen that made her laugh. They watched an old Italian film, and he translated jokes she wouldn't have caught. They talked about everything except the meeting, and slowly the tension in her shoulders eased. As evening approached, reality intruded again. Luca arrived with a garment bag. "For tonight." Dante thought you might want something appropriate. Inside was a dress that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. Deep emerald silk that would complement her skin tone perfectly, elegant and sophisticated, without being overly formal. "It's beautiful," she breathed. "Try it on," Dante suggested. "Make sure it fits properly." She disappeared into her room, slipping into the dress with careful movements. It fit like it had been made for her, which it probably had been. She studied herself in the mirror, barely recognizing the sophisticated woman staring back. When she emerged, Dante's expression made the nervousness worth it. He looked at her like she'd stolen his ability to breathe, eyes dark with want and something deeper. "You're stunning," he said simply. "You clean up pretty well yourself." And he did, in a black suit that probably cost more than her car back home. Luca cleared his throat. "We should leave in 10 minutes. Security team is already in position." The drive to the restaurant passed in tense silence. Ariella sat beside Dante in the back of the car, his hand clasped firmly around hers. She could feel the coiled tension in him, the shift from the man who'd cooked her lunch to the underboss about to enter negotiations. The Paradiso restaurant was closed to regular customers tonight, taken over completely for this meeting. Security flanked every entrance, and Ariella counted at least a dozen men who were clearly armed. Dante helped her from the car, his hand settling possessively at the small of her back as they entered. The restaurant's interior was elegant, all white tablecloths and crystal, but the atmosphere was anything but romantic. 3 men sat at a table in the center of the room. The oldest, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, stood as they approached. Dante Vitale, thank you for agreeing to meet. Don Calabrese. Dante's tone was respectful but not deferential. Let me introduce Ariella Monroe. She's under Romani family protection. The Don's eyes assessed her with uncomfortable intensity. Marco Monroe's daughter. I remember your father well. I'm told you worked together briefly. Ariella kept her voice steady despite her pounding heart. We did. He was brilliant with numbers, less brilliant with loyalty. The barb was intentional. Dante's hand tightened on her back, a warning. The past is past, Don Calabrese. We're here to discuss the present. They sat, and waiters appeared with wine and appetizers that no one touched. The 2 men flanking Don Calabrese watched Ariella with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. So, the Don began, you've taken Marco Monroe's daughter as your... what exactly? Employee? Ward? Mistress? She's mine. Dante's voice left no room for interpretation. Under my personal protection, which means under Romani family protection. Any action against her is an action against me specifically. Interesting. I heard she was just an intern, translator work to pay for her studies. Don Calabrese sipped his wine. Now suddenly she's worth risking family alliances over? She's worth whatever I decide she's worth. The edge in Dante's tone made one of the flanking men shift nervously. And I'm here as a courtesy to make that clear before any unfortunate misunderstandings occur. Misunderstandings like what? We have no interest in some American student. Then this conversation should be very brief. Dante leaned back, the picture of casual confidence. Acknowledge her status, and we can all go back to our existing agreements. Don Calabrese studied them both for a long moment. Your father, he said, addressing Ariella directly, cost my family dearly. Men went to prison, operations collapsed, millions were lost. You understand why some might view his daughter's presence as an opportunity for recompense? Before Dante could respond, Ariella spoke. I understand that my father made choices 20 years ago that had consequences for your family. I also understand that I'm not my father, and punishing me for his decisions violates pretty much every code of honor your world claims to value. The Don's eyebrows rose. Bold words for someone so new to our traditions. Honest words from someone who won't pretend to be less intelligent than I am. She met his gaze steadily. My father left this world to give me a better life. Dante is honoring that sacrifice by ensuring I stay safe. If you're truly men of honor, you'll respect both those things. Silence fell over the table. Dante's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently in what might have been approval or warning. Finally, Don Calabrese laughed. I see why you're claiming her, Vitale. She's got spine. He turned to his men. What do you think? Worth the trouble of challenging Romani over old grudges? The man on his right shook his head. Not worth it, boss. The girl's right. Our beef was with the father, not her. Agreed, the other added. And picking a fight with Vitale over a woman would make us look weak and petty. Don Calabrese nodded slowly. Very well. The girl is under your protection, Dante. We'll respect that. He stood, extending his hand. But understand this. If she makes trouble, if she gets involved in business that concerns Us. This courtesy ends." Dante stood as well, shaking the offered hand. "She won't. She's not part of operations, just under family care. You have my word." "Then we're done here." The Don nodded to Ariella. "You've got fire, girl. Try not to let it burn you." The meeting ended as quickly as it had begun. Dante guided Ariella out of the restaurant, his hand never leaving her back until they were safely in the car. The moment the doors closed, he pulled her into his arms. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly reckless. Which do you think? Both. He kissed her hard. You could have gotten yourself killed, speaking to him like that. But I didn't. And I think I earned his respect. She pulled back to study his face. Was I wrong? No. You were perfect. Pride colored his voice. Handled yourself better than most men twice your age. But please don't make a habit of challenging Mafia dons. Only when absolutely necessary. He laughed, the sound surprised and genuine. What am I going to do with you? Keep me, protect me, maybe kiss me again. She was giddy with adrenaline and relief, and the knowledge that she'd just survived her first real test in his world. All of the above. He claimed her mouth again, deeper this time, celebratory and possessive all at once. When they finally arrived back at the penthouse, Luca was waiting with an approving smile. Well done, both of you. Word's already spreading that the Calabrese family has backed down. Your status is established, Ariella. What does that mean, practically? She asked. It means you're recognized as under Romani protection. Other families will think twice before making moves against you. Luca headed for the elevator. It also means you're officially part of this world now, for better or worse. After he left, Dante poured them both wine, and they stood by the windows, watching night settle over the coast. No going back now, Ariella said quietly, having second thoughts. She turned to face him fully. Not even a little bit. That was terrifying and exhilarating and completely insane. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even normal? Safe? The life your father wanted for you? My father wanted me happy. I think he'd understand that happiness looks different than he imagined. She set down her wine, moving into Dante's space. I'm choosing this, choosing you, fully aware of what it means. His hands came up to frame her face. You're sure? Because once I truly make you mine, I won't be able to let you go. Then don't. She rose on her toes, bringing their lips close. I don't want gentle or patient anymore, Dante. I want real. I want you to stop holding back. The last of his control shattered. He lifted her easily, and she wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her toward his bedroom. The kiss was hungry now, all the restraint of the past weeks finally breaking free. He laid her on his bed, with surprising gentleness, given the intensity burning between them. Tell me to stop, and I will, anytime, for any reason. I don't want you to stop. She pulled him down to cover her body with his. I want everything you've been holding back. What followed was slow, despite the desperate hunger. Dante took his time removing her dress, kissing every inch of newly exposed skin like he was memorizing her. When she reached for his clothes, he helped. And then they were skin to skin, and nothing had ever felt more right. You're so beautiful, he murmured against her throat. I've imagined this so many times, but reality is infinitely better. She couldn't form words, too lost in sensation and emotion, when he finally made them one, moving with careful control that made her arch into him. She felt something shift fundamentally in her chest. This wasn't just physical. It was claiming and surrender, trust and vulnerability. Everything unspoken between them finally finding expression. After, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin, while moonlight painted silver across the sheets. Dante held her close, one hand stroking lazy patterns on her back. "I love you," he said quietly. "I know it's too soon, too fast. But it's true. I've loved you from the moment you challenged me about that contract translation." Tears pricked her eyes. "I love you too. I tried to fight it. Told myself it was just attraction, or Stockholm Syndrome, or anything except what it was. But I love you, Dante Vitale, in all your complicated, dangerous, beautiful reality." He kissed her softly. "I'll spend the rest of my life earning that love, being worthy of your faith in me. You already are." She snuggled closer. "So what happens now? Do I go back to being an intern who happens to be sleeping with her boss? You can, if you want. Or you can take on a more official role in the family. Use your skills in ways that actually matter." He shifted to look at her. "I'm not asking you to become like me, to embrace violence, or make compromises you can't live with. But there are legitimate aspects of our operations where your intelligence would be invaluable." "Like what?" "Translation and cultural consulting, obviously, but also strategic planning, communications, the parts of this world that don't require bloodshed." His hand cupped her cheek. "I want you beside me, Ariella, in every way that matters." "Then that's where I'll be." She sealed the promise with a kiss. "Your world, our life, together." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, and for the first time in weeks, neither of them struggled with nightmares. The next morning brought sunlight and the smell of coffee. Ariella woke alone again, but smiled when she heard Dante moving around in the kitchen. She pulled on one of his shirts, drowning in the expensive fabric, and padded out to find him making breakfast. "Morning," he said, pulling her in for a thorough kiss. "Sleep well?" "Better than I have in weeks." She accepted the coffee he handed her. "What's the plan for today?" "Luca wants to brief us on some intelligence that came in overnight. After that, I thought maybe we could do something normal. Walk along the coast, visit that museum you wanted to see, pretend we're just a couple instead of mafia politics." "That sounds perfect." They spent the morning in meetings that revealed the complex web of information and power that kept the Romani family functional. Ariella asked questions, took notes, began to understand the strategic thinking that separated successful families from short-lived ones. By afternoon, they were walking along Bari's waterfront, Dante's hand clasped firmly in hers. Security followed at a discreet distance, but for a few hours they could almost pretend to be normal. "Tell me about your mother," Dante said as they watched the ocean. "Your father mentioned her in his letter, but not much detail." "She died when I was 3. Cancer, fast and brutal." Ariella leaned against the railing. "I barely remember her, just impressions. The way she smelled, how her laugh sounded. Dad never remarried. Said she was it for him. Like you are for me." She turned to smile at him. "Dramatic, much? Honest. I've had relationships, physical encounters, things that served a purpose. But I've never felt like this. Like you're essential to my existence." He pulled her close. "You're it for me, Ariella Monroe. The only woman who'll ever have this particular power over me." "What power?" "To make me want to be better. To question choices I've accepted for years. To imagine futures that don't revolve entirely around duty and family obligation." He kissed her temple. "You've rewritten everything I thought I knew about myself." "Good. Because you've done the same for me." She rose on her toes to kiss him properly, not caring about the tourists watching. "I came to Italy expecting museums and language practice. Got mafia politics and the love of my life instead. Any regrets?" "Not a single one." They spent the rest of the day exploring Bari like tourists, visiting churches and markets, eating gelato, and pretending danger wasn't always one step behind them. By evening, they were exhausted and happy. stumbling back to the penthouse wrapped around each other. The week passed in a blur of meetings and passion, strategy sessions, and stolen moments. Ariella learned the rhythms of Dante's world, discovered where she could contribute meaningfully, began to carve out her place in this complicated life. On their final morning in the penthouse before she was cleared to return to normal life, Dante presented her with a small box. "What's this?" She opened it to find a delicate gold necklace with a pendant bearing the Romani family crest. "It's a statement. Anyone who sees this knows you're under family protection, that you belong to me specifically." He fastened it around her neck. "If you're uncomfortable wearing it, I understand. But I wanted you to have the choice." Ariella touched the pendant, feeling its weight against her skin. "I'll wear it. Proudly. You're sure? It's essentially announcing to the world that you're mine. Then the world should know." She turned to kiss him. "I'm not ashamed of loving you, Dante. Not hiding what we are." Pride and possession blazed in his eyes. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway." They returned to semi-normal life after that week. Ariella moved into a new apartment that Dante insisted on, this one with actual security and proximity to family operations. She continued her studies, but took on official translator work for Romani interests, using her skills in ways that felt meaningful. 3 months later, she stood in Dante's office during a major family meeting, providing real-time translation for negotiations with a French syndicate. When the meeting ended successfully, Don Romani pulled her aside. "Your father would be proud," he said simply. "You've honored his memory while building your own place in our world." "Thank you, Don Romani. Call me Enzo. You're family now, officially, if not legally yet." His knowing look made her blush. That night, Dante took her to dinner at an exclusive restaurant overlooking the coast. They'd settled into comfortable rhythms over the past months, learning each other's quirks and boundaries, building something real beyond the initial intensity. "I have a question," he said over wine and pasta. "Just one? That's unusual for you." He smiled at her teasing. "Marry me. Not because of family politics or protection status. Marry me because I love you more than I knew it was possible to love anyone." Her breath caught. "Dante, I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring out how this works. But I'm certain about you, about us, about building a life together." He pulled out a ring, simple and beautiful. "So what do you say, Ariella Monroe? Will you marry a Mafia underboss and all the complications that come with him?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes. Absolutely, yes." He slipped the ring on her finger, and when he kissed her, she tasted salt and realized she was crying. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears, tears for the life she'd found when she'd stopped looking for it. "I love you," she whispered against his mouth. "I love you too. More than words can express." He pulled back to study her face. "Thank you for seeing past the danger to the man underneath, for choosing this life when you could have chosen safety. Thank you for being worth choosing." She kissed him again. "Now, take me home and show me exactly how much you love me." "With pleasure." They left the restaurant wrapped around each other, security trailing behind. Two people who'd found something precious in the unlikeliest of places. The future would bring challenges and dangers, complications that came with loving someone in Dante's position. But they'd face it together, bound by love and choice, and the certainty that some things were worth any risk. 6 months later, they married in a small ceremony, attended by family and the few friends who understood their world. Ariella wore white silk and the Romani crest, and when Dante lifted her veil, the love in his eyes made her forget about every sacrifice this life required. "Mine," he murmured, "just for her." "Yours," she agreed. always. And in the coastal city of Bari, where Mafia politics and romance intertwined, they built a life that honored both duty and desire, power and love, the darkness they couldn't escape, and the light they created together. It wasn't the story Ariella had expected when she'd arrived in Italy expecting quiet study and cultural exploration. It was infinitely better, because sometimes the most dangerous men made the safest havens, and sometimes love meant embracing complications instead of running from them. And sometimes a linguistics student from America and an Italian mafia underboss could find their forever in the most unlikely of circumstances, built on truth and trust and the courage to choose each other every single day. Their story was just beginning, but Ariella knew with absolute certainty that it would be worth every twist and turn ahead, because she'd found her home in Dante's arms, her purpose in his world, and her happiness in a life she'd never imagined wanting. And that was worth everything.